We're at Tokyo Game Show 2016, catching up on what might be one of the most crowded corners, the PlayStation VR corner here with Nicolas. And you're showing Playroom VR behind us here. First of all, for those who are unfamiliar with what Playroom VR brings, how would you describe the experience?
So Playroom VR is very much an introduction to VR for the first-time players. And it's it's an evolution from the Playroom that we had created for PlayStation 4. So for those who don't know, the Playroom for PlayStation 4, that was like a compilation of experiences inside the PlayStation 4 that helped, they explain to you how to use the different functionalities of the machine. Well, that's pretty much the same way. So we've done a lot of VR experiences and we've put them inside this new Playroom VR. So one of the particularity is that VR has got this image of playing a single player and you play on your own, but in Playroom VR we actually use the television screen as well, so that you can have up to 5 people all playing together. One of them in VR using the PlayStation VR headset, looking around, being immersed in that world, and the other people on the TV having a competitive or cooperative games. So all together there are 6 games inside the Playroom VR. And it will be available for free for anybody who purchased PSVR.
Nice. I remember that's one of the first demos I played actually on the PSVR, the one where one player moves his head and tries to dodge things that the other players shoot at him, etc.
Yeah, that's right. So that was one of the very first games we created using this two-screen approach where some people on the TV are throwing things at a big monster, and the big monster is the VR player. He has to kind of dodge what's coming at him. So we've developed many other games. Some of them are competitive, so the 4 people on the sofa versus the VR player, but also cooperative games where everybody has to work together towards a similar goal, like clear a ghost house or for the ghosts. So the VR player is inside this ghost house. He can shoot, but he doesn't know where the ghosts are. Whereas the players on the TV have a scanner and they're able to see where the ghosts are. So they have to communicate and have to help each other how to clear these ghosts. So that's it's an interesting take on VR, and it's also very light-hearted in terms of the VR can do many things. It can do very intense action, horror, but it can also do family-friendly content, and that's what we wanted to try with Playroom VR.
Is it taxing to have both VR and a separate screen experience? Is that something that's technically a challenge, or how do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's a challenge for sure. So that's the kind of thing that you have to, I guess, when you make your game, you know from the beginning that you're going to be having the 2 screens, so you budget your game accordingly. But it's something, the PS4, even the base PS4 itself is a very powerful machine, and we've been able to get a lot out of it. But certainly it's something like in any game development you would have to think about, as you create the game, so that you can get the best out of it.
It is free with the PSVR, of course, but I suppose this game also supports move controllers, etc. Well, what do you need to get the full experience of Playroom?
So the Playroom VR doesn't use actually move controllers. No, it doesn't. It uses 1 DualShock 4 up to 4 DualShock 4. But if you have 1 controller, you can already have a 2-player game. 1 person inside the VR using his body, and 1 person on the TV. So the very minimum requirement is just a headset.
That is fantastic. It's a multiplayer game where you only need 1 controller. That's rare.
Yeah, that's right. It's very unusual, and I think when we started working with VR, we had no idea we'd end up in this place. We were like everyone else, just discovering what would happen. And I think this second screen has unlocked a lot of possibilities for us.
I mean, that is an interesting thing, because I don't know how many years you've been at this, but how many years have you been working on the VR concepts?
So for us, it's been about just over 18 months, so about a couple of years altogether. It started just after we shipped the Playroom for the PS4. We had a few, additional content, and then we moved to VR. And our team is in Japan, so it means that we get to really get first-hand prototypes from the hardware teams who create those prototypes in Japan. So it's a great combination to have a game team and the hardware people very close to each other. We're able to try things quickly. And then that's how this innovation actually of the second screen happened, through a mix of the creativity of the game team and the technical engineering coming together and everybody working as one. It worked really well.
I think these sort of experiences that are a little bit more sort of smaller, bite-sized, if you will, things, they're common in VR. Do you think there's potential for sort of more grand, sort of longer experiences as well, or is this what's the best fit at this moment in time?
So at this moment in time, I think there's two reasons why maybe they are bite-sized experiences. Well, one of them is that we haven't really worked out yet the playtime of a VR experience, and as a result, we're going with bite-size. But I think you can extend that quite a little bit. Perhaps not to like an entire 7 or 8 hours non-stop, because to be honest, there is also it's not necessarily something that we would want to do. But the other reason I think is VR is so new that you try so many different things, so you end up with like many gameplay mechanics, many ideas, that if you want to utilize them all in a way, you kind of a little bit forced at the beginning in making little pockets of gameplay. So I think what's going to happen is that once we've worked out the rules of VR and we've thrown away all the things that don't apply to VR anymore from the previous games, I think at that point people will understand the base, and then we can start building something a little bit meatier. That's what I'd expect would happen as the second wave kind of comes in, and once there's been like a bit of a reflection from the developers, and also the audience needs to have this word, because we want to know what people think, and what kind of things do they like, what did they not like, and then find our own set of rules and path. And I think then you're gonna start seeing things that feel maybe meatier. But having said that, the same way mobile gaming defined its own rules, I think VR is gonna do the same. When mobile gaming started, the first reaction was to mimic classic games with having a virtual stick and buttons on a touch on a glass panel, But actually, very quickly, the touch mechanics, the tilt mechanics started being very easy to use. And today, a good mobile phone game or a good tablet game is actually built for these devices. And I think we're going to go through the same process of learning. So I think give it a little bit of time, and then VR will find its own set of rules, I think.
We're already seeing some of that with the teleportation, for instance, for instead of walking.
Exactly, and I think that one is a great example. It might feel strange that you're not moving your character from A to B anymore, but if you think about it, moving in a game has never been the goal. It's always been a means to an end. So in the end, removing it makes sense. It's perhaps more comfortable for the experience. So why not? I think that was one of the many breakthroughs that VR will go through.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting few years ahead. Is there anything that in your game that benefits from the new Pro model, or will it be the same game?
Right, no, there is a version, so if you have for the PS4 Pro, so there were two choices to go for in our case. We could either have we tried both. We tried to have the frame rate 120 frames native, and in the case of Playroom, because we've got a lot of games where you're quite static, and we've done that on purpose because at the beginning we want to have a gentle VR experience. So when you increase the frame rate and things aren't flying past you, you notice it, but it's not that massive. A racing game would really benefit from upgrading the frame rate. So instead we went on for the rendering quality. So in our case, for example, when you were getting close to an object before, the angles would be a little bit rough, and the rendering, without being too technical, but the rendering resolution would be a little bit maybe lower than we wanted, so that but we had to make do with this because we're using the second screen. With the Pro, we're able to up all of that to the maximum. So we've done a test. We've tried 120 frames per second or up the graphics, and I think all of us within the team, we all thought graphics is a better way to go because the impact is immediate. As soon as you see it, it's like, wow, it's really crisp. So it's really cool.
And of course, there's a lot of excitement. October 13th is when it's coming out. Then, are you all done, or do you have anything left to polish?
So no, we're all done with the game. The game is finished for both versions, and we're really looking forward to just people downloading it, because when you get your PSVR, you're gonna get the game for free. It will be a download. So we're really just waiting to see what people think. I'd love to think that thanks to the Playroom VR, we've attracted families as well. so that this image of VR as being an isolating or kind of a bit of you know, like a device that is really for gamers only, can be a broader image instead. It can be something that really bring friends and relatives together. And then for the future, we're thinking about it, whether to add a little bit of content or maybe to work on something brand new. But first, we're going to have a big holiday because we've been working really hard.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.